I have been hesitant to create this for some time now. Now that I'm sitting here doing it, I legitimately can't think of why that is. Maybe it's because it's different content than what my audience has followed me for. Perhaps it is because I am overwhelmed by the amount of information I have on the subject, and the mere thought of packaging it seems like a tedious task. Or maybe I'm just scared. Scared of this commitment to creating more content. Scared of giving valuable advice and information to people who probably didn't ask for it. Scared of taking the next giant leap into the unknown. Maybe scared isn't the right word because I'm beyond excited at the same time. Before I jump into the meat of this, it is important that I give you as much context and insight to what I'm thinking right now. Because in some way, you and I are going to be embarking on this journey together. And this is one of the biggest things my clients, friends, peers, my family, and even myself have all feared doing. That is talking publicly about something that they're passionate about. I already put myself out there and speak publicly about my passions, so why is this any different? Well, the thing is, my content didn't always do well. In fact, my content has only recently been picking up traction, and it has only been my content on AI. If you know me and have seen my content, you should have at least a very basic understanding of my journey up to this point. For starters, for those of you who don't know, I am a YouTube manager for a digital media agency. Essentially, I help a variety of creators on YouTube in various ways, whether it is uploading and managing their content, giving feedback and guidance on their channel, or coming up with strategies to increase the effectiveness of their content creation. I really enjoy my job. I'm truly blessed to be able to work very closely with some of the biggest creators in various niches. It has given me insight on things that most people are unaware of, including the sheer amount of money these creators earn by creating content that they are passionate about. The thing is, I was already creating content before I was a YouTube manager. Granted, my channel was basically dead. I had around 60 subscribers when I first got this job. Lucky for me, I had months of research under my belt regarding content strategy, marketing, and sales. So when I was interviewed for this position, the knowledge I garnered made me overqualified for the position, even though I wasn't a successful YouTuber myself. A few weeks in, after meeting all of my clients and working closely with my teams, I quickly learned a number of things that made these creators so successful. I realized why my channel never took off. And not only that, I realized why my content across all my social media platforms was not performing well. So I began to implement some of the strategies I saw firsthand. I began to apply the things I learned from the top creators, the professionals. Some of you watching up to this point probably wondering what the fuck this has to do with business. Trust me, it's important that you hear this part of my story so you can view things from my perspective. This is for your benefit. It's important to know that I started my YouTube journey speaking to camera about my thoughts and opinions on certain topics, mainly self-improvement. This content was very bad, but I didn't make that content in hopes that it performed well. I made that content to desensitize myself from the insecurities I had from seeing and hearing myself on camera. I made a pact with myself to record a vlog every single day and discuss a particular topic, whether it was what I did throughout that day or just documenting my thoughts. The sole purpose was to improve myself by squashing the insecurities I had and to improve my speaking ability by rewatching the footage. It eventually got to the point where I was relatively comfortable with talking on camera. Since everything I talked about was off the top of my head, I struggled with coming up with engaging and meaningful things to talk about. Subconsciously, I shifted from wanting to improve myself to wanting to grow my audience. Granted, my audience grew little, even when my content was raw, unedited, and ultimately garbage. I was ready to take the next step. From there, I explored my interest in AI. I learned many things. I became obsessed with the technology behind it, with the process, and the quick paradigm-shifting changes that occurred in the industry almost daily. Because it was such a new topic, there wasn't that much information on the latest developments that were going on. So I began making content about AI art, helping people use it, and introducing new people to it. This quickly grew my channel, at least relative to the growth I had seen previously. I went from 60 subscribers on YouTube to 500 in a matter of days. The feeling was magnificent. Not only was I helping people with something that I was passionate about, but I was growing my brand by doing so. I was hooked. Now, let's fast forward a couple months. I have since only created content on AI art. My network has grown considerably. I've released my first product, I've created a community, and I have been learning every single day about AI and AI art. But something had changed, something inside of me. I didn't want to just keep making AI content. Sure, I love AI, I'm passionate about AI, and I have fun playing with and teaching AI. So what is the problem? The problem is that over time, I was learning about AI, but even more so, I was learning about personal brands, fitness, business, marketing, sales, networking, automation, writing, and content creation. The problem is that AI is just one of the things that I'm interested in. In fact, if you were to compare my interests by the amount of time I invest into research and practice, AI would pale in comparison to business, self-improvement, personal branding, and more. So when people referred to me as that guy who uses AI, that rhymes, I felt like I was overlooked. You see, I am not one-dimensional. I am more than just a guy who makes videos on AI. I have a lot more interests and talents. So do you. So that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today, which is what excites and scares me at the same time, mostly due to the fact that this subject isn't what has built my following to this point. I'm going to talk about the business that everyone can and should get into. You may be wondering what that business is. You may already know. The business that everyone can and should get into is personal branding. Personal brands, if you have never heard of them before, are essentially a brand that you build by exploring your interests, goals, philosophy, perspective, and talents, building and marketing yourself. The thing is, everyone has a brand. Most people just use their brand to consume content online and repost other people's content. The internet allows us to meet and learn from people we would inherently never meet, giving us knowledge that we would never get and allowing us to do things that we could never do. The internet has two sides to it. It is two-dimensional. You have the back-end code that provides the framework of the internet, the infrastructure, and you have the front end of the internet, content, the stuff that gets seen and digested. Creators and businesses need to use the internet. Every single business does if they want to succeed. So naturally, people need to utilize the internet by creating on the front end, the back end, or both. As a creator, your job will be to use the internet to create content. And it may sound daunting at first, but I assure you it's not that bad. The focal point of your personal brand is you. You are the niche, you are the content, and in some cases, even the product. Everything you do makes you unique. It makes you you. Everything you know, your experiences, make you you. Knowing this, every person knows something that you don't, and vice versa. Whether or not it has value to you or someone else is something that you must figure out. This means that everyone should harness and package their knowledge and productize it. But unfortunately, most people have limiting beliefs that give them fear and imposter syndrome, which prevents them from taking action. Knowledge is the purest thing that you can give or sell to someone, especially if it is related to the 4 evergreen markets: health, wealth, relationships, and happiness. Being able to package your knowledge and experiences and give it to someone, and then them being able to learn it, practice it, and implement it to change their lives is not only beautiful, but it is fulfilling. There is something that you know, whether you have learned it from experience or someone else, that has the potential to change someone's life forever, even if just a little bit. That is the reason for me making this. I'm making this video to help you. Why? Because I've worked with creators with followings of millions and millions of people. Not only have I aided them in broadening their reach with their brand and content, but I have also seen how they operate from behind the scenes. I have analyzed their workflow, business model, and brand at a professional level. I've helped them reach new heights that I haven't yet reached myself. Isn't that strange? I've spent years studying business, marketing, and sales online, but I've only applied it to one small piece of the puzzle, one small piece of what I enjoy, one small piece of myself. So now I get to take my advice. And paradoxically, that advice is giving this advice. There is one person out there watching this video right now whose life I can change by giving you this information. Right now, you have everything you need to get started on the path towards the life that you've been dreaming of. Immediately, you may be thinking, there's no way I could start something online. I'm not that interesting. Or, why would someone listen to me when there are thousands of other creators with similar interests? At surface level, these are reasonable self-limitations. It's much easier to assume that you have nothing of value that you can share with someone else. It's easier to assume that if you talk about, let's say, fitness, people will laugh and go on to watch someone else talk about fitness because there are thousands of other fitness influencers out there. These thoughts are normal. Everyone experiences the same or similar thoughts. This is why only a small percentage of people succeed. But you have to understand, there has never been or never will be someone like you, ever. There are an infinite amount of combinations of traits, experiences, and knowledge that make a human human, that makes you you. Now bear in mind that there are a lot of things that make people similar: interests, hobbies, experiences, etc. This is where the beauty is. When you create something that you're passionate about, you attract people who are or will be passionate about it as well. Or maybe they aren't so much interested in what you're talking about. Maybe it's how you're talking. Or maybe it's because of how you look. Or maybe it's because your personality or sense of humor. Or maybe it's something as simple as the kind of shirt you're wearing. Attracting someone with a tiny interest or similarity such as that, and then bridging the gap to something else that you're interested in, is the magic behind being a personal brand creator. Since 99% of my audience, at least at the time of recording this, is here because of my content on AI, perhaps some of you are interested in personal branding, or maybe not. Which is fine. I'm not going to stop making content on AI, but that's not only going to be the niche I create content in. I am the niche. I'm going to create content on my passions and interests. Personal branding is one of them because it applies to everybody. It encourages people to not only be themselves, but to explore themselves. There is so much to cover on this subject. I will cover everything you need to know to get started, overcome obstacles, and maintain momentum. This is my first video in this series, and I will be creating them weekly, so stick around. Next week, we will be going over the next steps that you will be taking in this journey to becoming a tyrant and conquering your life. With that said, my friend, I hope you are excited to begin this next chapter in your life like I am. I will see you next week. Until then, keep conquering.